I think we're live, Charles.
Okay, let's see. Let's see.
Yeah, we're live. Charlie, we
Oh,
are live.
yep, we
Charlie, I
are
can.
living. Yeah, we are living.
How are you, Charlie?
I'm doing fine, brother. Doing fine.
Okay, here we go. Yep, it is working. It is working. It's like so exciting when it works, you know? Okay, here we go. All right. Oh, oh, volume. All right, Charlie. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our COVID discussion tonight. Happy Aloha Friday to everybody. I hope you guys' week went well. Um, busy week, and thank you guys for joining us. As always, we got a bunch of you loyal people that come on every single night. And we should have took attendance, Charlie. Every night we take attendance and we give them prize to the person who get the most attendance, the best attendance.
Mhm.
But anyway, tonight we have Dexter Kishida. And Dexter, Charlie, what is Dexter's official title?
Well, Dexter's official title. Let me pull it up here because it's a long one, and I don't want to make a boo boo. And here we go. Dexter Kishida. He's a farm to school coordinator in the school food services branch, Department of Education, State of Hawaii.
In other words, big shot, big shot.
Yeah, he's a big shot. And, right now I know the viewers going, oh, cafeteria worker. Okay. No, it's beyond that. And you'll see why. Because he has a very crucial role, especially during COVID. And I'm going to have him explain what process he had to go through in getting approvals. And because it touches all of us. And we're talking about our keikis that probably the only meal they have all day is the one they have at school. And they started the program, even with the schools closed, to open up the school kitchens and cafeterias to make breakfast and lunches for the children so they have someplace to eat. Okay? It was because of Senator Kochi, again, our senator from Kauai, and Mr. Dexter Kishida. And we have to give credit to First Lady Dawn Ige, First Lady of the state of Hawaii. That in fact that was her brainchild. That was she really wanted that. So all those hands got put together and they made it happen. Made it.
Yeah, since the beginning of the crisis, a lot of people struggling, a lot of people not working, a lot of people waiting for their checks, a lot of people relying on the community for come forward. We get so many organizations working right now. Tomorrow, I think the county is giving away food.
Mhm.
Um, Sunday, we talked about last night, the Papuana is giving away food on Sunday morning at 3 locations, 1,500 bentos for KK and Kupuna only. Not if you're not 65 or above or 18 or under, you're not getting a bento, and you got to be in the car so to get the bento. But you know, you hit it on the head. Many of our kids get their only nutritional meal when they go to school. And years back, and Hawaii is still a state that doesn't allow the kid to take the lunch if they have an outstanding balance. We had that whole discussion a few years ago with the state. Well, how dare you throw the food away when knowing that might be that kid's only balanced nutritional meal of the day, and it's not the kid's fault that the parents were unable to bring the account, um, up or fund the account. You know, Charlie, so my years in politics. There are actually people, and unfortunately, a lot of them are decision makers that cannot relate to being poor. They cannot relate to being poor. They simply have no idea of what it's like to be poor, not knowing how you gonna feed your family. They just don't have that experience. So for them to come up with a policy like that, yeah, fiscally, yeah, it's a good policy, I guess, if you're only looking at the numbers. But when you look at the bigger picture and you think about that poor kid who's in line and picks up his lunch, goes to the table, scans the card and said, oh, sorry, you got to throw that lunch away now because you touched the plate, and the Department of Health says you cannot reuse the plate, so you got to throw them away. It's frustrating. So I gotta really commend First Lady Ige and Dexter and Senator Kochi, because right now, no more school. And if not for these programs, which Dexter will talk about tonight, as well as other opportunities for our kids to get food and be fed, you gotta give them a lot of credit, because those people understand.
Well, I'll share with you what happened last year in November. We did a kickoff, and then Dexter will explain his program, and Waimea High School was chosen. And they had the kids, first time they had lunches like that, because we want to really build it up, because everything is grown in Hawaii. Nothing is being brought in. Everything is grown in Hawaii. And we made it for the kids. And I was standing by the cashier, and every kid, there was a large number of kids. They said, oh, Uncle, I cannot. They were waiting for their friend. I said, baby, go in line, go grab one plate. Oh, no, I cannot, because they were shameful to me. What, no more money in the account? They went, yeah. I go, no, Uncle got this covered. And, I had to go on the side, and boy, I started to cry. I told my wife, I go, honey, we are starting one program, and this is not right. I said, look at the girl over there. She's standing there because she doesn't want to get embarrassed to go up to the cashier to get turned away. And so Steph went and grabbed her and said, sweetheart, come with me. You will get a lunch today. And you will get a lunch every day. Don't you worry. It's not your fault. Because, if we don't teach kids right, what could happen? They're going to say, if I'm hungry, I'm going to start stealing so I can get the money or pay for my food. Then what? Things get worse. So
it's hard enough to expect our kids to study and, in today's world, and, much less when they're hungry. So anyway, Dexter's in the waiting room. Before we go there, there is a question about, I'm hearing tourists are claiming they have letters which state they're exempt from the 14-day quarantine. Is there such an exemption letter? No, there's no exemption. The only exemption is for inter-island travelers that are here for essential, meaning medical work. That's it. And that exemption is granted through the governor's office. So, no.
No, there is an exemption letter for them. It's at the UFC gym. They come over here to be a punching bag.
Yeah, it's called the BS exemption. They try everything, these clowns. Speaking of BS, speaking of those doodle boys, don't be a doodle boy. Don't be a doodle boy, people. That's it right here. That's our t-shirt. This is the last t-shirt. And that we are going to be selling. I just told Charlie we are less than $1,000 away from our goal of $5,000, which is way more than I expected. I know, Charlie, the first night we talked about this, you said $5,000 goal. I remember you saying that. I was thinking, oh my God. And we didn't have the Doodle Boy shirt. We only had the Charlie Mel shirt. Anyway, we're less than $1,000 away from our $5,000 goal. So please, if you guys want a shirt, it's $15 a piece. Just send me your sizes that you need to my private messenger. Don't put it in the comments, put it in the messenger. Just tell me how many and what sizes. I will send you the link to pay, PayPal or Venmo, preferably Venmo, because Venmo doesn't charge a fee. And we'll get you the shirt. We hand deliver them or we mail them, whatever you guys want. Okay? And hit the share button, start a watch party, and let's bring Dexter in so we can learn about what the state, the good things the state is doing for our kids. All right? And Charlie, I'll let you introduce. Thank you for having Dexter there. He is, that don't look like the guy I saw in a picture that I put on the post today. Are you Dexter?
Hi, Dexter. Can you hear us?
He cannot hear us.
Yeah.
Okay, he's connecting to audio. He's connecting to audio. He's
Dexter.
on. There he is.
Am I in?
Yeah, all right. At least you smile, man. The guy we had last night never smiled one bit. Like he didn't want to be on the show. Jesus Christ.
It's the police officer feel, you know, kind of feel a little bit interrogation going on.
Well, it will be. It will be. You'll get interrogated tonight, that's for sure.
Yeah, but
anyway,
before you go on, we like to welcome you, and as we do with all our guests at this time, can you bring out your driver's license, registration, insurance card, please? We need to check that before you go on.
Ooh, wow. I've never heard that before, though. You know, I've never been pulled over like that. So,
oh God,
first time for everything.
You just hit bocce yourself, my friend. Oh my God. Hey, I did you see the post I tagged you?
Yes.
Is that your picture? Because man, they don't look like you. I'm really concerned now.
Yeah, no, that's my picture. That's my picture. It's you know the COVID look. Five week growth right here, you know.
Well, I'm actually thinking you look like you're 17 years old right now, and the picture made you look a little older.
I think it was Civil Beat took the picture, so you know, add a few years to you.
Well, Dexter, thank you very much for joining us, Charlie. Charlie will do the formal introduction because Charlie was nice enough to make the connection and invite you on the show. So, Charlie,
thank you.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, you know, it is our pleasure of having Mr. Dexter Kishida with the Department of Education. And please, I'm sorry, Dex, if I get this wrong, because I got it from Stephanie. I got a lot of information from her. But tell me if I am in the realm of what you do. You're a farm to school coordinator in the School Food Services branch, Department of Education, State of Hawaii. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Spot on.
Well, you know, we like to tell our viewers that, you know, just to let you know, Dex, you know, every night we try to bring something informative, but we try to have the people get engaged because sometimes there's questions and they don't know, you know, the doom and gloom message is pretty much out there. We beat it. I mean, Mel and I have beaten it so it can't be beat no more. But there's a lot of things that happen behind the scene. And we was talking about one of them, which is the farm to school program that we did before. So before we touch on that, why don't you give a little brief history on what you do, what you target as far as your position with the DOE and the state, and let the viewers know, you know, your background.
Excellent. Will do. Thank you for having me on, first off. Really appreciate the opportunity because during these kinds of times, I think it's even more important for us to be in constant communication with people to let them know what's going on and sometimes why things look the way they look. Sometimes the state, I'll be honest, doesn't make very much sense. And I'm hoping a lot of times there's a reason for that. So if there are questions, would love to try and answer them. And if I don't know, maybe we can get back to them at a later date, but we'll do my best. My job as farm to school coordinator started a few years ago. The state legislature created it knowing that we really need to figure out and crack this nut of how to buy more local in our institutional systems. You know, at first, when you first hear about it, what's the problem? Just buy the local produce, buy the Kauai shrimp or buy local beef. But there's so many loopholes and hoops you have to jump through when it comes to public procurement. And they're put there on one hand to ensure that we take care of the public funds and spend it correctly. But there's definitely a lot of hoops to jump through. So my position was created, and my background actually is mostly in cafeterias. So I was a cafeteria manager back in the day, went into the restaurant scene for a little bit. Then I joined Kokua Hawaii Foundation. They're a nonprofit environmental education organization. And my main focus there was on getting more local products into our school food. What I realized is that you can only do so much from the outside of the system. Sometimes you've got to just jump into the belly of the beast and start working it from the inside. So I took the jump and joined School Food Services branch as a supervisor, and very do a few different duties. As farm to school coordinator, I work statewide to connect our farmers with their schools and just actually ag producers, be it even fishermen, beef, work next to get all these local items for our kids to be eating for breakfast and lunch. Part of it, though, is bigger. We did a pilot in Kohala Complex. It's an elementary, middle, and high school. And then in Mililani, because as we see it, a lot of times local produce costs more. It costs more to produce. We also want to ensure that we're not paying pennies on the pound. We want to pay our farmers a legitimate wage and a legitimate price for the food that we're buying. So we've got to find savings within the system, though, because we don't want to just keep asking more money from the legislature, which is tax money. We want to tighten up what we're doing and how we're doing it so we can use those savings to pay more for that local carrot. So that's the goal in our farm to school program. Let's tighten up the system because there's definitely some things that we can do. We can train our staff better, and we can get into that at a later date. We can streamline some of the systems and modernize the systems. So it's more seamless, it's more transparent, but also easier and saving us money. So all of that wraps into the whole plan to now buy more local. So now we can pay a little bit more for a local carrot than I would just shipping it to the mainland. I also have the pleasure of overseeing the Kauai district for school food. So I oversee all the cafeterias on island and daily operations, and now this COVID feeding and moving into summer. So I have the privilege of working with a dozen great managers and a bunch of staff on island. And I just want to throw out that Kauai and the 15 schools, we have 6 feeding sites now that fed from March 23rd till today, over 35,000 breakfasts and over 65,000 lunches. And that is absolutely amazing. Most of these 6 kitchens producing way more than they normally would. And quite honestly, putting themselves in harm's way. I must say on Kauai though, Mayor has done a great job in locking things down. So less risk maybe than in some other areas, but still engaging with hundreds of people every day to ensure that our keiki can get fed. So I applaud these guys that every day are out there. We can try to support them from behind the scenes, but they're there every day, 6 o'clock, making breakfast, making lunch, and getting it out to our families. At the same time, looking at that number really saddens me and kind of scares me because it shows how much need there is. Because we're requiring parents to come at breakfast and then come at lunch. So coming out 2 times to get meals is kind of humbug. I get it. But they're doing it, which means they need these meals.
Yeah.
That also scares me a bit.
Well, so for the viewers out there, you heard those numbers. It's staggering. I didn't know it was that much. I didn't know it was in the thousands like that. But that's very, one, I applaud the DOE and we thank you. I know that this COVID feeding, a lot of it was the brain trust of yourself, Senator Kochi, First Lady Don Ige, because, Mel and I was just talking, the old saying that, no kid left behind. And we look at no kid left hungry.
Exactly.
We don't want none of the kids left hungry. So kind of explain to us how the program started. Sure. And how did you were able to fast track and initiate it, knowing that COVID came upon us so fast and you was able to get it up and running.
Pretty amazing for government to work so quickly, I must say. School Food Services Branch, who oversees all the kitchens statewide, we were tracking what's going on nationwide and seeing how things are going. But very quickly, within less than a week, we were able to stand up these kitchens, and about 74 of them statewide, 6 of them on island, that could take care of all of our keiki. To put in perspective, statewide, we fed about 700,000 students lunches from March 23rd to current. That's a pretty staggering amount. And on island, on Kauai, that 65,000 a lot in itself, in a part of that number, especially population size. Now this started because USDA also did realize, so federally funded program, USDA realized that with schools closing, where do these students, I think Mel mentioned that where do these students eat? A lot of them, this is one solid hot meal that they get. So we wanted to very quickly stand up these sites to take care of our kids. And this is really the first time that we can recollect school food services doing this kind of service in mass like this. You know, usually the emergency services, right, steps in, and you see Red Cross and those kind of folks doing this. But we had the people, we had the food, we had a federal program that'll fund these meals. And so we did it. We did it because our schools are amazing. I must say, 6 schools, so every area on Kauai is serviced. Absolutely amazing schools. The leadership of the complex area superintendent, Bill Arakaki, the principals that got their staff together, 15, 20 people just to distribute so the cars can move as quickly as possible. The kitchen staff getting food, making sure everything is set and executed. So yeah, I can't take credit for it really. It's just amazing people in Hawaii are amazing workers that I know a lot of times get bad rap, right? The typical state worker. I can say these guys aren't the typical state workers. They jumped when we needed to. When the communities needed help, they just jumped in and did it. So absolutely amazing.
And the byproduct is also supporting the local farmers and helping that segment of business that otherwise would be struggling as well. So it's really neat how you guys were able to tie in the local farmers to this and not just get the mainland container foods, from federal source. So it's pretty cool. I like that. Now you guys do serve breakfast and lunch, correct?
Breakfast and lunch at all 6 sites.
Incredible.
Breakfast served 7:30 to 8 o'clock-ish and 30 to 12 o'clock.
Wow. And this will go on throughout this crisis, I'm assuming. I would think that the funding will not stop. This program will continue. Imagine if not for this program, how many of those kids, you talked about the inconvenience of having to, because a parent got to bring them in, correct? The kid cannot just walk up to the school and grab lunch.
We do have a few cases that kids are walking up, but mostly it's parents. Right.
So, again, you mentioned it earlier, there is the need because it's so much easier to put a couple of Eggo waffles in the toaster and give your kid a Eggo breakfast than loading up the car, going down to the school and picking up a breakfast. So the need is definitely there, and it's not going to get any better until this thing passes. So thank you very much, Dexter, for that program.
No, it really is our.
I'm looking
our
at the comments. I'm just reading when I look down, I'm not being rude. I have my phone here so I can track the comments, and it's just a lot of people did not know. I mean, they see the flyer here and the flyer there, the Facebook post here and the Facebook there, but when you talk about the numbers, what did you say? 700,000 meals statewide.
Meals statewide, yeah.
And what's the cost? What would the cost? Do we have an idea of what the cost? How much does a meal cost for these types of programs?
A fully loaded meal, so labor, everything included, is about $6 a meal, and majority we get back from the federal government. So that's why the buying local is really a key piece, because that's the best way that we can do it. In the beginning of this, we had to use up some items, but I think hopefully you got to see our slightly late Mayday menu where we had beef laulau, potato, all from Hawaii. Kauai will be seeing Kauai shrimp in the future. Great partnership with them, as well as all of our beef items are from Hawaii meats, Hawaii meats. Sorry. So all local beef as well, and a lot of the veggies. and just hope to increase now and to turn those federal dollars and put them moving in the local economy.
Now, when you get federal dollars, this is something that I'm not too aware of, and maybe you can help me answer this question, but are there restrictions on how you purchase when you're using federal dollars, which might be, I know we're trying to stay local, right, to keep everything here, but sometimes it becomes prohibitive because of the standards set by the USDA, and when they let you the money, they give you all these criteria. So it must be a headache just trying to sort through it and trying to get into certain areas. They say, okay, we can buy from here. Oh, boy, we got to go mainland for this and that. Why don't you explain that? Am I kind of on the right area?
Yep, exactly. Anytime you use federal or even state funds, there's always strings attached, right? There's always stuff that you got to do. The USDA National School Lunch Program, which we're operating to feed students, this program is probably the most evaluated, and so many rules, over-regulated program when it comes to feeding. There's just a lot of nuances, to the point that not even on the purchasing side yet, as we're planning menus, we need to have so much beans on the plate every week. We need to have red, orange veggies on the plate every week, and to have dark green vegetables, only 1.5 to 2 ounces of the meat product on the plate. So when you look at the plate and you go, oh, the Kahlua pig and cabbage, it kind of plenty cabbage. How come? It's because we cannot load choke Kahlua pig, because they limit how much we can be serving of what we're planning. On the side, we would have to follow federal rules. And if we were a small little district of just 2 or 3 schools, then we'd be in a small purchase threshold where you have a lot of freedom. But because Hawaii is the 10th largest school district, don't fall in that category. So there's a lot of formal purchasing policies that need to happen. And that's also a lot of the work that we're doing, is working with the farming community and the distribution community in how to respond to those kinds of formal solicitations. The guys have thousands and hundreds of thousands of acres. They have on their team that can fill out that kind of document. They got all of that. But our 5-acre, 2-acre farmers, they don't have time, first of all, because they're busy farming. Also, they've never had to respond to something like that. So it's us working with them and how to, and trying making the system as easy as possible to do it. But there's just a lot of red tape that it's sadly necessary and a part of the program.
You guys, did you start off slow? Did you start off with a certain schools, or did you just come out and start banging, 100,000 or 60,000 meals?
I'd say we're
roll this out slowly.
Yeah, we're still in our baby steps, I'd say, on Kauai. We started in Kohala Complex. We had a contractor that went there for about 6 months, trained our staff and did a lot, but that was only one kitchen. And it was small, feeding like 600 students. We went to Mililani High School, did the same thing for about 3,000 students. We realized if we go one by one, 256 schools, I'm going to be retired by the time we finish this project. We've got to speed this up a little bit. And I'm a little older than 17. Thank you, Charlie, for that. But so we had to come up with this plan. At the same time, Senator Kochi, who said, Kauai ready. I said, really? Are you sure? Like, are you guys doing ag really on Kauai? Yeah, we have community support. Why don't you come over and let's talk story? So come over and come into this room to an amazing assortment of people. Everything from hotel representatives to farmers, big and small, to other businesses, distributors, and everybody in between. Just a whole community in the room or represented in the room to say, no, we're ready to change how we buy food for our kids and what we do. We have schools that are saying we're ready to go. We have a complex area superintendent who is helping to lead the charge. So we said, great, this is the great spot to try the next step, which is let's try and do a whole district of 15 schools. So we started working with our managers. We just completing, a survey because a lot of our kitchens were built in like 1950s, I think, way before I was born. And some of the equipment might actually be from that era as well. We're going to need to upgrade some of the equipment so we can do this efficiently. So we are trying to get to a cost neutral in savings to buy better food. We do know there is some initial investment that's going to have to go in. Anytime you do a systems change in an organization, there is going to be some input necessary to do this. So we're working with some local chefs, going to be working with a consultant on the mainland who is an expert at USDA to make sure we follow all the rules. We still want this federal funding, so our free reduced children can still be reimbursed and get those free and reduced meals. But putting this kind of think tank team together that can then execute further training is the next phase in what we do, so we can do even better than what we're doing now. And in this way, I was a little depressed earlier this week because I said COVID kind of interrupted our plans, right? We can't get together to train staff. We can't really meet and finish this year where we want it to be. But I had a meeting with some folks that reminded me, actually, COVID is the perfect opportunity. It's almost that reset point, that there's a lot of sacrifice that is happening to the point that sadly, some of our friends and family have even passed away. So let's honor all of that sacrifice by now imagining and coming to fruition in August, a new system that can be implemented will be even better for Hawaii. So buying more local, being able to get whole fish in and break it down to then serve our kids. So it's a really prime opportunity in the end.
You know, I see a question that just popped up about the amount of workers that goes into these type of operations. And right. Because of COVID, there are a lot of restrictions about social distancing and the like. But I know for a fact that cafeteria workers are like frontline medical workers because the standards, the health department is always breathing down your back. You got to have the right temperature. You got to be gloved up at all time. You got to have hair nets. And now I saw sometimes, even at the school that I attended, that a lot of the workers wore masks way back in the 60s and 70s. So I think, for the person who asked that question, I think you folks had a jump on the COVID protection and you folks didn't know it because it was part of your everyday routine.
And funny, that question came up early on, like, people freaking out. What about food service? We're worried about not only COVID-19 now, we're worried about E. coli, salmonella, and a bunch of other stuff that we could pass that are foodborne, or somebody sneezing on their hand or whatever. So we had to make sure those protections were in place before all this happened. Now we just ramped it up a notch a little bit.
Now, what about, real quickly, what about rat lung? That seems to be a hot button topic. And that goes towards the farmers, right? Where you buy. Is there an inspection process to make sure that it doesn't slip through the cracks when it comes to be processed as far as food-wise at the school? Do you folks have a mechanism there?
That's a really good question. And really it falls in line with just the good food safety practices that we do. Because rat lungworm, why it's kind of that hot button topic is because it's such the illness is really severe, but few cases, number one, much more chance to get staph, much more chance to get E. coli or salmonella for that matter. So practices that we do of we implement a HACCP program. It's called Hazard Analysis Critical Control Points. And HACCP is a food safety plan that constantly analyzes, adjusts, and implements control critical points along the flow of food to ensure that food is safe. And this plan was developed for NASA, because if you can imagine being an astronaut and having foodborne illness in space, not a pretty sight. So NASA developed HACCP to ensure that there is zero chance that somebody could get sick if you follow this plan. And so that's the plan that we do and we implement in all of our kitchens. And so that means buy lettuce and greens and things that rat lungworm could happen on from reputable sources that are practicing good agricultural practices. That hydroponic, they wrap their sides with copper so the slug or the semi-slug cannot get into the lettuce. Or that actively monitor if there's slug trails, they'll disregard those lettuces. Make sure who we buy from is reputable. Phase, once it comes into our kitchen, the importance of keeping it at temperature and then washing it properly, just like you would do at home. That even if it says, and our Department of Health in Hawaii suggests, even if it says pre-washed, that we rinse it one more time, because just in case, it's our liability. So we make sure that everything is washed properly and we look through everything. So with all of those kinds of procedures in place, there's very little chance of a rat lungworm incident happening in our schools.
The the First Lady has a pop-up breakfast program. What's the status of that? Is that happening? I mean, COVID has changed a lot of things, and it sounds like the COVID feeding is that the only program we have right now for our students?
Correct. Our COVID feeding is, but what's really interesting, when the First Lady started Jumpstart Breakfast, it's our real move to ensure that kids start the day strong and that they have a solid breakfast that will carry them to our lunch and be able to learn, because I cannot do work when I'm starving. So as she did this, we launched a few different concepts, breakfast in the classroom. We did packaged meals, we did satellite operations. And the thing that worked well so far is a grab and go meal, where we package items in either takeout containers or bags that are easy for kids to grab, and then they can go sit with their friends and eat. So as COVID happened, we realized that works really well for Jumpstart. The same plan actually works perfectly for right now. So using what we learned in Jumpstart Breakfast, we quickly to implement for our COVID feeding. So it's the same concept, except now you can take it home.
Oh, that's interesting. You know, some of the states that I've read about, you know, in schools, especially the food, a lot of the food the food that you don't use at the end of the day, and I'm talking about during the regular school season, the school year, they'll take the unused foods and they contract with a private contractor that actually picks up the food and handles the food and freezes the food or packages the food, and then they use that food for kids for the weekend, because we know there's a lot of kids that don't eat right. So what they do is, rather than just throw away the food, they'll package it properly, and then the kids take it home in a little cooler bag, and they'll have one meal for Saturday, one meal for Sunday, and that, you know, basically saves, keeps the food, not wasting the food, and then provides meals for the kids. Is that something that Hawaii could be doing at some point?
You know, I do foresee that happening. We have partners, I know on Oahu, Aloha Harvest, they're part of Second Harvest. We're talking with them to see how we can utilize their services. And I say that stutter a little bit because the first goal is that we wouldn't overproduce. We make enough little bit extra, but not a lot, because we got to find the cost savings, right? Like I kind of talked about earlier. So hopefully we're not making hundreds of meals extra, but there are times it happens. It happens that either big surfs don't come to school that day, or a field trip we didn't find out about, but something happens, and we have some extra food. One of the issues, sadly, comes down to liability, and so we're working through those things to ensure that as we hand the food over, we can assure it's safe, that other party will ensure that the food will stay safe till it gets distributed to families.
Okay. Well, I wanna touch on a subject that's near and dear to all of us because it involves Kauai. Can you tell the viewers what you did in November when the Ways and Means came to Hawaii, First Lady came to, and because I know we're talking about programs like pretty much a pilot program, right? It started here. Why don't you share with the viewers about that program? Because I think the people of Kauai will be very excited to know what happened, even though it wasn't publicized, but it was a start. And that I can assure you that Stephanie holds near and dear to her heart because she was part of that as well. Why don't you share that with us? Uh-oh, frozen. Mel?
Hi. Yeah.
Oh.
No. Uh-oh. Okay, he's coming back in. I know we were having problems with his audio, but hang on. We'll bring him right back in.
Yeah. There he is.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no. Okay.
Computer decided to do a restart right now. So just to make sure I heard right, that I can talk about November, kind of our kickoff to all of this. Excellent.
Right.
So when we were, to start things off, we wanted to kind of kick it off quiet, but yet big. And so we went to Waimea High School, and we brought a few friends because what we decided is we're going to serve something pretty radical that's never been served in school before. We have a great producer called Koi Shrimp that does an amazing product. I got to visit them. I got to talk story with them. They have an amazing product, amazing process. And so we said, hey, let's do Koi Shrimp for lunch. And they're willing to support us at a great rate. So we could afford this. And so we implemented, and we brought Senator Kochi and First Lady to help us peel some shrimp because it's full head, tail on, like you buy at the store. And we thought, kids might freak out a little bit if they have the eyes looking back at them. So we decided, let's get it peeled. And we did shrimp tacos that day. So we had a shrimp taco on one side, and for students that may have been allergic, we did a beef taco with local beef, with local lettuce. We served some fresh melon and of course milk with every plate. I think we served more than double the amount of students that day for lunch, and we didn't let them know, right? Because we wanted to be a surprise. So that day we just came in, we brought everything, and did a shrimp taco to kids' utter amazement of when do you get shrimp on your plate for school food?
Well, I think, one of the questions I've heard, and I just saw one pop up now, is that, for years, schools, all meals it's considered institutionalized, right? That it comes out of a can.
Right.
It's put on there. So when you talk about the numbers that increase, that was probably one of the first meals some of them ever had that was actually made from scratch, and it's not institutionalized. So is it your goal that the schools now go into this process of trying to be more really like nutritional but home cooking style, that it's not out of a can and it's created right there? Is that
it is? That is the goal. It's counterintuitive. When we first started working in this, we thought, oh man, kids all love chicken nuggets. They love the frozen pizza. They love chicken patties. You know, all these prefab foods that people are conventionally, we think that's what kids go for. But after talking with them and showing them good home cooked food, we realized no, they actually rather have meatloaf made in house than a frozen puck with ketchup smeared over it. They rather have a homemade chicken strip even, and we can, you know, do a breaded chicken strip. We used to call chicken katsu a chicken patty that we sliced up and then serve it with katsu sauce. When we started serving them actual chicken katsu, it just blew their mind. We also started from Kohala a pork adobo slider. So pork adobo with green papaya slaw on top. Sort of like a green papaya salad almost with it. And as a sandwich instead of a normal with rice. And one of our top items. So it really showed that students truly react to just good cooked food.
I never had a problem with my school food, man. I tell you what, I thought
Awesome.
it was all good. I mean, that's a long time ago, but you know, the hamburger, the terry burger, the fish sticks, which I knew came. I mean, now I know it was frozen probably, but I mean, with the tartar sauce, yummy.
Yep.
So I never did have
Yep.
a problem. But I know a lot of people did a lot. Oh, shoyu chicken, right here. I'm looking at the comments. The shoyu chicken at school was the bomb. Yeah, just trying to get to some of these comments, but
You know, Dexter,
so go
Dexter,
ahead, Sean.
you had two special helpers on that day, right? Up at
I'm sorry.
Waimea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we
were-
did. We had Senator Kochi and the First Lady peeling shrimp for us to make sure we met meal service. So where else, and I'm sure I still have some pictures to prove it, that where else does the Senate President and the First Lady come into the kitchen to peel shrimp? Absolutely amazing.
Right.
Only on Kauai.
Only
Only on Kauai.
Yep.
And Senator Kochi is on. He's actually watching this stuff. I just
And
Thank you, Senator.
I had that taco that he peeled because I had the taco, the shrimp taco, and mine had all shells on top. So I know that was from the Senate President.
Made specially for Charlie.
Yeah.
So now, during the COVID, are there any other opportunities for kids that you may know of that may not be DOE related? I know we have, like I mentioned earlier, probably before you came on, but a lot of nonprofit organizations getting involved that are out there and feeding our communities, not necessarily just the kids, but there are some that is specific to the Keiki and the Kupuna, but and I know you're on Oahu, so there's a lot more of it, but any organized meal programs for kids that you know of that are not related to the DOE?
There's quite a few programs, like you're saying. I know up in Kekaha, there's a lot of food distribution sites, as well as starting next week at or near some of the sites, there's food box distributions. So where cheeses and produce will be distributed to children. I don't have the schedule. I think Malama Kauai is organizing those food box distributions. One great place to go to and statewide is if you dial 211. Aloha United Way and some others are keeping populated resources for families and where you can get feeding or food from. So you go to 211 for as a reference point. I would like to mention before I forget that during these times when we just have huge layoffs and unemployment just skyrocketed, a lot of families find themselves for the very first time in this situation and don't know where to turn. So 211 is one place to go to, but also Department of Human Services has SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And you can go, if you go to Department of Human Services, on their website, there's an online application that can be filled out, and that's another good place to go to get additional funding. And I'm hearing it's taking a lot quicker on the application process than some of the other applications. Also, what the state is applying for is called Pandemic SNAP, where there'll be an additional funding that comes to the recipient to help out during this time period. So those are some other resources that I know of that please take advantage of. And I know it's kind of funny, right? A lot of times when you grow up and that's not the first choice where you want to be, but it's an extraordinary time right now. And so please utilize those resources are there for folks to use in this kind of time.
That's the hardest thing, is encouraging our local people to go stand in a food line. That's what I'm saying. When you see these organizations are running out of food, there's more people than food. You know that it's tough. People are struggling. You know, they're stepping outside of their comfort zone to go in a food line. I know one of the questions that just popped up was about after Hurricane Iniki. There were tents set up. They were serving food to a lot of people, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And why we're not doing that now? And I think, when you look at the hurricane, I think a lot of people lost their homes. A lot of people didn't have access to their stoves and the refrigerator. A lot of places never had power for months. So it's a little different than, in this pandemic where people still have their homes and still can cook. So the availability of the fruits and the vegetables and the local food and the ingredients that you need to cook for your family is not as bad as the hurricane. But nonetheless, in many households, the cupboards are bare, the refrigerator is empty, and we cannot get our unemployment checks out. The stimulus came and that went. That didn't last long. So it is, and that's why I'm saying, like you just did, and Charlie keeps saying, this is not the time to be a proud person, or, you got to put the ego on the side and go, we've been paying into this system. Every job you've ever had, you've been paying taxes, and you've been paying into this system. You've been paying unemployment. You've been paying all these taxes. Now is the time to take advantage of these programs, because the last thing you want is your kid, the adults, it's your choice. But the kids doesn't have a choice. And if you don't want to eat free food, then don't give it to your kids. But it's there if you need it. And really appreciate all these different organizations that are stepping up. And I think, and as time goes on, more will step up. I'm seeing a lot more now being posted on Facebook. A lot of organizations and agencies, Office of Elderly Affairs here on Kauai for the Kupuna, a lot of programs available, but you got to call.
Yeah.
You got to call.
Now's the time to not be shame. Shame is running naked in the streets. Shame
is when you steal. Shame is when you break quarantine. Shame is when you pass that damn virus. That's shame. Shame is only when you steal. It's not when you're receiving help that's there for you. That's the shame is when you steal.
Hey Dexter, let me ask you, and this goes along the lines of institutions like schools, hospitals, state hospitals, because I know on the state hospital side, they're kind of ramping up their nutritional program with some pretty amazing things. I heard these numbers being tossed around that on an average day before, and again, this goes towards institutionalized cooking. The numbers are small, but now the numbers have increased.
Right.
Have you seen that across statewide?
Statewide, as there and the whole Hawaii Health Systems Corp has been changing the way that they do food. And one of the good telltale signs is staff meals, because if the staff, and even just like in schools, if teachers come to eat, then that's a good sign. So same thing at hospitals. If the workers come to eat, that's a good sign. Before, they're getting maybe 5. 10 is the Kalua pig equivalent day for us, right? Or the big chicken day. Now, as they've implemented buying more local and cooking scratch, they've at 5 times that amount in a lot of the hospitals. So imagine that same food is now getting served to patients and some of the long-term resident, and not some, the long-term residents. So
Wow.
that, yeah. And as well as still being very diligent about spending public funds, right? Saving on because now we have better trained staff that can cut whole products, the whole pineapple coming in, instead of the cut pineapple that's flown in or shipped in from Philippines or someplace else. So saving money in one place so we can now buy that local pineapple.
How's the response of your cafeteria employees? This was a question that came from the viewers. Now that they're more working more with scratch foods than canned foods, and how did they take that? How did they? What was the
Nelson,
response?
forget it. No, they didn't. They're actually, most of them are really happy, it seems. As we implement a lot of these new items or newer recipes, kind of exciting, something they haven't done, but it is more work. So I do have to say it is a whole lot more work for them. But with that in mind, there's definitely the payoff is in the student's face. So we see that over and over again. When we first talk about doing this, the school's like, oh my gosh, no way. Shrimp, good example. Are you serious? I don't think I should say the exact words over on this call, but
Well,
are
you
you
actually
serious?
can. You should see what
Yeah.
people say.
Oh.
Yeah, you can,
And so
yeah.
we said, yeah, let's just try it, right? So we do it, and seeing the kids' faces going, holy cow, what? Shrimp? No way. Oh, auntie, thank you. Oh, uncle, thank you. Signed, sealed, delivered. Staff get won over.
You guys still make the pan lao lao or pan luau?
We a lot of our sites do. They make the pan lao lao. Usually, it used to be like fake lao lao though. They used to use spinach. And funny
Yeah.
story is, just earlier this year, and it had to be a Kauai school. Kid comes up to the manager, goes, "Uncle, I don't think you can cook the lao lao good enough. My throat kind of itchy." Boy, the stuff is spinach. What you talking about? So, yeah, good try. Uh, but lately, we have been using lao lao in the pan lao lao and along with some of the Kalua pig dishes. So we'll be transitioning more and more to actual luau leaf, and make sure that we cook it good so nobody's complaining about itchy throat or anything.
Ooh, I used to love that too. Everybody's been. I don't think you don't have a Facebook feed going, right?
No, not right now.
Okay, well, when it's done, go check this thing out and go read the comments. There's a lot of good comments, but so they just started, all the old people like me, and not as old as Charlie, but old people like me. They're putting all the food that they remembered in school, and I think back then all the schools must have served the same food, because all of the taco and, oh my God, I don't know. Like I said, it was good stuff.
Yep.
How much is a?
It is funny.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. How much is a school lunch now? I'm talking about not COVID, but during the regular season.
Right.
Regular school year.
A full price meal for a student is $2.75 for lunch, and $1.10 for breakfast. So it's not the quarter that I remembered, or I think it went up to 45 cents when I was in school. But yeah, $2.75. But where do you get a lao lao plate for $2.75?
Absolutely.
Or a
absolutely.
taco.
And you do have reduced and free lunch. So I know on Kauai, if I remember correctly, very high percentage of students are on a reduced or free lunch program. Especially
we have. Yes, definitely. So reduced pays 40 cents, and free, of course, is free.
And yeah, we talked about this a little bit, I think, before you came on. There's an issue about if the kids don't get their accounts not paid up. then they get
Mm-hmm.
denied a meal. Is that still happening in the state?
It sadly still is in some parts, but there is a law that passed a few years ago. Senator Michelle Kidani helped to spearhead a law to get passed that ensures that families have so many meals that they, or not families, the student can have so many meals in the negative before they're able to be stopped. So it gives the family a buffer time to be able to figure things out and start paying back. One of the issues is at the end of the year, the state was seeing over $200,000 in negative balances. And the USDA requires that our books have the specific languages, we can't carry bad debt. So during the school year, not saying that we hide it from the USDA, but we don't worry about it. But by the end of the school year, that balance needs to be paid off. I think the top that I've seen it went close to 300,000 one year. And if we let families go negative, schools are the ones that we're having to work with these families to repay, and that became a challenge. So that's where a lot of schools decided, we can't continue chasing, so we're going to just cut students off. The bright side is we've had quite a lot of private sector folks come in to say, we can't see that. We've got to take care of these kids. So in addition to that 1 week of meals that will be that buffer, we're going to create angel account at the school that the principal can have discretion over to either help pay off these meals or to act as almost a revolving credit. Castle Foundation on Oahu did a huge thing. Their Christmas present to Windward District on Oahu was to create these angel funds in Windward schools to act as that revolving fund to extend to our students that really need it. So it's a challenge, and it's a nationwide issue, really. And part of it, though, is how we do it. That's where additional training needed to happen with our staff, because yanking a plate from a kid is quite traumatic and quite embarrassing. And we don't want to build that kind of rapport, that kind of feeling in them, especially associated with food and them getting a meal. Because what we don't want to develop is the habit of then having to bum off of their friend, or just not eating, or stealing to pay for this if the parents, or they don't want to ask the parents for money. So finding these corporate or private donors has been quite good, actually, for a lot of the communities.
And I'm so glad you said it there, Dexter. I was going to ask you, a couple of years back, when you're ready to graduate, and a lot of times it's no fault of the child. The parents fell on hard time, homelessness, and the children didn't even have the proper clothing for graduation. They didn't even have the money to attend Project Grad. And I always say, I looked at my wife and I said, honey, these kids only graduate once. So what we did is we put up the money. We know that they couldn't tell us who they were, but we bought gift cards for each child. And we awesome. Bought, there was about 8 of them, and we bought like $400 worth of gift card for each child, so they could get themselves set up and they could pay and go and attend Project Grad. They can walk the walk.
Awesome.
So I'm glad you said that about the sort of angel network, because there's some people asking, how could they do it? And, I'm thinking now, I think, if we who can, I think we should adopt an account just to make sure that the child gets fed. Because, just a couple of nights ago, Mel put together a really good cast of experts because of these rough times, because of suicide. And I don't want suicide part of the equation because they couldn't eat or they were embarrassed or something like that. So, I guess I'm pleading to the viewers out there, if we start an angel network to at least sponsor one kid at least we can get that kid fit throughout the year. We can get the kid fit throughout the year.
Yep. And
well,
it really
let me make a different plea because and again, don't take this in a wrong way, because obviously these are decisions that are made by the bosses, the leaders of the state. That a few years ago I was still on the council, and I did a resolution urging the legislature to never let a kid starve. And I know I got calls from a few of the legislators. They're very angry that I was doing this. I know the superintendent was pissed off. Bill Arakaki was not happy with me, but I don't even know how to say this. $200,000 a year. Right now, we have families that have not received an unemployment check for 2 months. Nobody gets punished except the person. The state is just, they have an excuse of we're working on it, or our computer system is old. Oh, we no more manpower, blah, blah, blah. But the burden now falls on the person that has paid into this insurance system for decades and decades and decades. And in the case with the student, there is no, the state doesn't, I guess what I'm trying to say is $200,000 in this state's budget isn't that, it's pretty much a drop in the bucket. And I'm not talking about COVID times. I'm not talking about when no more tourists. I'm not talking about when we're in a recession. I'm talking about normal times. $200,000 to keep our kids fed doesn't seem like too much. And I think that's where my frustration lies is, and I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm not here to get no pity or sympathy or whatever, but I was a kid that never eat lunch. I was a kid that went through the line and never, no more my money and never eat lunch. And you know how that sucks when you got to lie to your friends like, because I don't have more money. I know what that feels like. It's not a good feeling. Now, I can only imagine if you went with the plate and they tell you, sorry, you got to throw that plate in garbage can. And that was happening quite a bit. And this is not directed to you, Dexter, please. This is not directed to you. My point is that fast forward 3 years, the state is default on their unemployment payments, but it's okay. You guys deal with it. And it's way more than $200,000 a year. And the you know what I'm saying? The people that suffer is the kid. Now, it's never the kid's fault. It's the parents, the rotten parents, drug addict parents, whatever the case may be. The fact of the matter, if they qualify for free or reduced, they should be getting free or reduced. But at the end of the day, my personal opinion, I don't think any kid should be denied a lunch. Let them go sue. I understand that if the whole process, you cannot have bad debt, but have the state cover it. If it's $200,000, I know when Kauai went through this, what was Kauai's negative balance? The whole island. It was like $900 and something. That's what it was. Now Honolulu, of course, you get a million people, but
right.
And it was $900. Somebody paid it. I forget. Some guy here just paid it and made a donation and stuff. But my point is that the state covers it, and then you go collect from the parent. Then you go send them to the collection agency or whatever the case may be. But the kid shouldn't be denied. That's just my position. I know Senator Kochi's on. He's probably going to call me right after this and chew me out. But that's my position. I think a kid should starve when it's not his fault. I really don't. I don't. But anyway.
No, totally understand. But you bring up a good point. During the school year, if you can apply for free and reduced anytime throughout a school year. So if your situation changes, go to our website, easymealapp.com, and reapply. What's great about the meal application, if you do it online, doesn't even get to your school. It goes straight to our office. A clerk processes it within 10 days, and you'll get a status. It's federally mandated within 10 days. Outside of the beginning of the year, we usually 2-3 days, and an online app will be processed. So if your situation changes, I urge everybody to please utilize it. And especially with this, it's not shame because you don't even need to face anybody. And the child, nobody will know they're free, reduced, or paid. It's on it's on an electronic system. It's a barcode, or they just say their name. So it's a pretty user-friendly system in that way.
Perfect.
Again, we gotta inform and educate. We gotta let the parents know, you know. And I know that they get probably handed a paper at the beginning of the year and all of that. But I think, you know, these are the kinds of things, and that's why we try to do this show, to let people know what's available, what programs are available for, you know. Hopefully somebody that's listening knows somebody that they can help and let them know what they need to do, because I mean,
well, you know, just on last night's show, Mel, as an example, one of our viewers, as discussion is going on, is texting me on the background with a private messenger, right? And we're talking about the food drive you have in Honolulu, the large food drive. These people are kupunas that either don't have a vehicle or disabled. And they were taken by bus to Aloha Stadium, only to be turned away because they missed the cutoff. So anyway, this person, I told her, get me a list. She gave me the list. The list was from a housing project out in Eva Beach. And there were like 6 names on them that never received food for a while. All kupunas. And guess what we did today? We called our partners in Honolulu. Please help us. They are now making deliveries to these 6 people, so they never have to be turned away again. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. You know, Coconut Wireless in action. Somebody let somebody know we can do it. But you know, Dex, I'm gonna say this. Coming on tonight has been a very, very eye-opening experience. And I hope our viewers, I know our viewers, just by the comments, our viewers appreciate what you have done. And I'm going to urge you to continue, because it's no easy feat. And you know, the task that's at hand, it's pretty huge. Now, what does it look like post-recovery, after COVID or post-COVID? What are you folks getting ready for?
That's a good question. You know, it's almost hard to imagine what school food is going to, or what the cafeteria setting is going to look like come fall if we start going back to normal. We're imagining quite a few different plans, but very likely it's still going to be similar to a grab and go, except kept on campus, where students, some might eat in the cafeteria, but will also be taken or go with their class back to the classroom, etc. Imagining classroom sizes being a whole lot smaller, as well as staggering lunch hours a little bit, where it's not just maybe 2 lunches, but we're going to have every 10 minutes a wave of students coming through, so we can still space them out, grab a meal and go. So it's preparing menus that are grab and go friendly, because the poor little kindergartner carrying a beef stew plate back to class is going to be an absolute mess. But preparing food that they'll love, that can be easily carried from 5 years old to our 18-year-olds. But the biggest thing that really my task is working on is, how can we support our local ag economy during this time? That especially as hotels, restaurants aren't up at full capacity. And I'm imagining August, we still won't be there yet. That we can support our ag producers to get some of their food in. One thing that we're working on for this summer is lychee, something we haven't served for meal programs. But lychee farmers statewide have been offering excellent pricing. And I think it'd be pretty cool to serve fresh lychee to our kids. Wow. And what amazes me is how quite a few kids never had even a papaya before. Like, you grew up in Hawaii. Never had a fresh papaya before. So things that I take for granted, we definitely want to offer and start enticing our kids to eat local that way.
Yeah.
Well, Dexter,
so
thank you very much.
That's kind of a broad stroke of our plan.
We went a little over our time, but I appreciate you spending the time with us. I got to tell you, very impressive you know, we all heard about the schools feeding our kids, but most of the time, 99% of the time, 99% of the people, I think, don't understand the logistics and the work that it takes, the staffing, the prep, the cleanup, all of that stuff that goes into providing our kids meals twice a day. So on behalf of all of us here and probably throughout the state, you know, thank you. And you know, this thing's a lot of people, it takes a lot of people, but it takes a great leader. It takes a good leader, and you're that guy, along with, you know, the help of others. But now they know who Dexter Kishida is. I didn't know who you were. I had no clue. I figured, you know, somebody drop off the meals every day and somebody pass them out.
You know, when I first met Dexter, I thought, you know, he looked like one of those guys, you know, from Black Belt Theater. I thought he was one of those. He was one.
But you know what is amazing me, Charlie?
Yeah.
Before your computer froze when you were on, you didn't have no facial hair, and I can see a little goatee and some mustache hairs now. So
a little bit, yeah.
Is that like, does it come out at night? Because you didn't have any an hour ago.
No. It's
all angle. It's all angle.
About 6 months ago, I had an operation, and you just turn this little thing, and I can adjust the length. You just turn it, just tune it a little.
Oh, man, we appreciate you. You know, I went Catholic school. Elementary school, I went Catholic school. We had Filipino nuns. We had on Portuguese lady that ran the, bless her soul, the cafeteria. And let me tell you, it was rough. It was rough working in the cafeteria. But we had full-on local food. I mean, you know, we only had 100 total, like 100 students, so for all grades. So it was small, and we had the real, you know. But then my high school years, I went to school and public school. So I've seen the both, but I just remember being scolded about being clean, the hygiene, the hair nets, the gloves. I mean, I just remember that vividly every time we worked in the cafeteria, and I'm sure it's the same now, but just wanted to share that silly ass story. Anyway, thank you very much, Dexter.
Awesome. Thank you.
Keep up the good work, and we'll see how this thing pans out. You know, I think things change every day. So if there's any time that you want to share a program or something that's happening, let Charlie or I know, and we'll get you back on so we can share that with the public.
Will do. Thank you so much for all you guys do.
We get the easy job.
Yeah, we get the easy job.
Charlie, any closing comments?
Well, to our viewers, I'd just like you to know that when we have the opportunity to have good people like Dexter on, we're going to bring them on because, you know, we've had people that talked about COVID. We had people talk about the legislature. Now we got somebody really, his job, he's talking about our keikis. So, you know, we try to bring a wealth of knowledge onto the show. We put it out there, and you folks can use it if you want to, and if you don't want to, then don't use it. But we just try to give you something. We try to arm you with something so you can make an educated decision on what you need to do. So I'd like to say thank you. Dexter, right. you got anything to say, Dex, before you leave?
Just thank you all. And you know what? It takes a village. It takes a community during these kinds of times. So thank you, everybody. Please tell a cafeteria worker thank you. If you know them, related to them, see them on the street. They're doing amazing work.
Thank you.
Well said, my friend. All of you guys, we'll see you guys tomorrow night, 7:00 p.m. Same place, same station. Now you guys can go back to your regularly scheduled programming. God bless you guys. Love you all. Take care.
Yeah. Take care. Good night.